Let me ask you something. When you die, what will be written about you? What story will they tell? That you played it safe? That you followed the crowd? That you died full of fear and empty of fire? Or will they say, that man, that woman, they lived, they dared, they risked it all, and damn it, they created a story worth telling. You weren't born to exist. You weren't born to survive. You were born to set fire to the script and write your OWN damn legacy. Every great story begins with risk. The risk to be laughed at, the risk to be doubted, the risk to be alone. But you take that risk because safety is the slowest form of suicide. Look around. How many people do you see trapped in lives they don't want, just because they're afraid to leap? They're breathing, but they're not alive. They chose comfort. They chose routine. They chose death in disguise. But not you, not today. You take the risk. You step into the unknown. You swing the sword even when your hands shake, because the ones who dare, they're the ones who make history. You'll fail. Yes, you'll fall, of course, but you'll rise stronger. You'll rise with a story. People want a life with meaning, but they run from the very pain that gives it meaning. The risk, the chaos, the fear. You want to be remembered? Then live like your blood is on fire. Move like the world owes you nothing and your soul demands everything. Take the shot. Launch the business. Say the truth. Leave the toxic. Create the art. Speak the vision. Fight the fight. Break the rules. Write the book. Burn the plan. Do the damn thing. Because the world doesn't need more shadows. It needs warriors. It needs you. You think the legends you admire had it easy. No, they bleed. They sacrificed. They risked being misunderstood, mocked, rejected. And that's why their stories live. So write yours. Take the risk. Create the story. Be the fire they can't put out. When it's all said and done, let them say you lived. Let them say you dared. Let them say you were unstoppable. Oh, comfort kills greatness. It sounds like a harsh truth, doesn't it? We're conditioned to think that comfort is the goal, that a comfortable life equals a happy life. We hear it all the times. Just get a steady job, a stable income, a nice house, and you'll be set. But what if I told you that the very things you think are protecting you from failure are the same things preventing you from greatness? Let's talk about it in simple terms. Imagine you've been living in the same town your whole life, surrounded by the same faces, doing the same thing every single day. It's easy, right? You know your routine, you know what to expect, and there's little risk involved. You show up to work, go home, watch TV, maybe go out with some friends, but deep down, there's this nagging feeling. It's not dissatisfaction. It's something more, potential that you're not using. But the trap of comfort is strong, and it whispers to you, you've got it good. Why rock the boat? But what happens when you stay in that comfort zone for too long? Nothing changes. You wake up one day and realize you're still in the same place, doing the same things, living the same life. Your dreams slowly die, suffocated by the complacency of a routine you've outgrown. The comfort you sought out for safety is actually the prison that holds you back. Look around you. How many people do you know who talk about their dreams but never take action? They're stuck in the safe zone, afraid of failure, afraid of looking stupid, afraid of taking that first step. They've convinced themselves that comfort is the key to happiness, but in reality, comfort is the enemy of progress. It's the quiet killer of ambition, the slow erosion of dreams. They might not even realize it, but every time they settle for mediocrity, they're abandoning the greatness they were meant for. Here's the thing: greatness doesn't come from being safe. Greatness is forged in fire, in risk, in challenge. It's not about avoiding discomfort. It's about embracing it. Think about the most successful people in the world. Do you really think they achieved their greatness by playing it safe? No, they took risks. They faced rejection. They failed. They stumbled. But they got back up because they understood that greatness requires sacrifice. They didn't settle for good enough. They wanted more because they knew deep inside that they were capable of more. Take, for example, an entrepreneur who starts a business with no guarantee of success. They don't know if they'll make it. They don't know if they'll fail. But they take the risk because they believe in their vision. They step into the unknown, knowing that the journey will be tough, the nights will be long, and the challenges will be relentless. But they also know that they're creating something bigger than themselves. They're chasing a dream, and that dream is worth more than the comfort of staying where they are. Or consider a student who wants to change careers. They've spent years studying something, working a job in that field, but deep down, they know it's not where their heart is. They have a passion for something else, but to pursue it means going back to school, starting from scratch, and facing the uncertainty of a completely new path. It's a huge risk. They're comfortable in their current job. They know the routine, and they could keep going with it for years. But they take that leap. They make the decision to step out of their comfort zone because they know that if they don't, they'll always wonder what could have been. Comfort is not the enemy in the way most people think of it. It's not the warmth of a home, the love of family, or the peace of a balanced life. Comfort becomes a problem when it becomes the excuse for never growing. When we choose comfort over growth, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to unlock our true potential. Think about it. Every great person you admire, every legend you look up to, took risks. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. They didn't sit around hoping things would magically get better. They stepped into discomfort, into the unknown, with nothing but their vision and their drive. And along the way, they failed a lot. But each failure taught them something. Each obstacle made them stronger. And they kept pushing because they knew that greatness could never be found in comfort. So, the next time you feel that urge to stay in your comfort zone, to keep things the same because it feels safe, remember this: comfort is a silent killer. It's the thing that holds you back from becoming who you were meant to be. Greatness doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It doesn't come to those who stay in their safe little bubble. It comes to those who dare to step out, to take the risks, to face the challenges head on. If you want something bigger, something better, then get comfortable with discomfort. Get used to pushing yourself beyond what you thought was possible. Get used to falling, to failing, to making mistakes, because that's where the magic happens. That's where your true story begins. Comfort may feel good in the short term, but it's the discomfort, the struggle, the risk that will create the story you'll be proud of. Your story begins at the edge of fear. It's easy to think that the big moments in life, the ones that define us, happen when everything is smooth, when things are calm and under control. But that's not the truth. The truth is that your story, the one that will make you who you are meant to be, begins when you step right to the edge of fear, when you're standing on the precipice, looking down into the unknown, feeling your heart race. That's when you know you're on the edge of something great. Fear is an odd thing. It can feel like a wall, holding you back from everything you want to achieve, keeping you stuck in the life that's comfortable, but unsatisfying. But here's the thing no one tells you about fear. It's a signal. Fear isn't a roadblock. It's a guide. When you feel that tightness in your chest, that voice telling you to stop, to retreat, that's not the universe telling you to give up. That's the universe giving you the clearest sign that you are about to experience something extraordinary. The edge of fear is where all the magic happens, where growth happens, where greatness is born. Think about the moments in your life when you've had to step up, when you've had to do something that terrified you. Maybe it was asking someone for help when you didn't want to seem weak. Maybe it was starting a new job, knowing you weren't fully ready, but taking the leap anyway. Maybe it was moving to a new city, leaving behind everything familiar because you knew deep down that you couldn't stay where you were. None of those decisions felt easy. None of them felt safe. But each of them took you closer to who you are today. They were the defining moments, the moments when you pushed through fear and stepped into the unknown. Fear doesn't disappear just because you take action. It's not something that magically goes away when you decide to be brave. No, fear will always be there, lingering in the background. But the difference between those who live ordinary lives and those who create extraordinary ones is this. The extraordinary people feel the fear and do it anyway. They don't wait for the fear to disappear. They learn to live with it. They understand that fear is a sign that they're on the verge of something big. They move toward it, not away from it. Look at the athlete preparing for the big game. Do you think they aren't nervous? Do you think they aren't scared of failure, of not living up to expectations, of letting their team down, of being judged by millions, of losing everything? Of course they are, but instead of running from that fear, they use it. They harness it. It becomes fuel for their drive, for their performance, for their determination to succeed. Fear doesn't stop them. It ignites them. And that's the mindset you need to adopt in your own life if you want to achieve anything meaningful. Take the example of someone who decides to start a business. The thought of doing something that might fail, that might not succeed, is terrifying. There's no safety net, no guarantee that all the hard work will pay off. But that person feels the fear and takes the leap anyway. They decide that the risk is worth the reward. They know that their story will not be written by sitting on the sidelines, by playing it safe, by avoiding the discomfort of risk. Their story will be written by stepping into the unknown, by facing their fears head on, and by learning from the inevitable mistakes along the way. The person who stays in their comfort zone, who never challenges themselves, who never pushes past their fears, will never know what they are truly capable of. They will live a life of quiet regret, wondering what might have been if they had just taken that step, if they had just been brave enough to face the fear. But the ones who dare to step into fear, to embrace the uncertainty, to walk that fine line between failure and success, Those are the people who will change the world. Those are the people who will have a story worth telling. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is the proof that you are alive, that you are on the brink of something powerful, something transformative. It's only when you feel fear and move forward anyway that you truly begin to write your own story. That's where your true potential lies, not in the safety of what you know, but in the boldness of what you don't know. It's in the risk, the uncertainty, the courage to keep moving even when the fear seems overwhelming. Because every time you face fear, you get stronger. Every time you step into the unknown, you expand your potential. Every time you push through, you write another chapter of your story. The next time you find yourself standing at the edge of fear, remember this: your greatest moments will not come from staying in the comfort zone. They will come from stepping into the fear, feeling the fear, and moving forward with determination anyway. The edge of fear is where the magic happens. It's where your story begins. Failure is not something to be afraid of. It's something to embrace. Too many people see failure as the end of the road, as a final destination, but that's not the truth. Failure is simply part of the journey, a stepping stone to success. If you're not failing, if you're not making mistakes along the way, then you're not trying hard enough. You're not pushing yourself enough. You're not growing. Failure is not a roadblock. It's a lesson in disguise. It's the universe's way of saying, hey, there's a better way. There's a new approach. There's more for you to learn. If you're not failing, it means you're not putting yourself out there enough, not challenging yourself enough. Because in order to achieve something truly remarkable, you have to fail first. And failing doesn't mean you're weak or incapable or not good enough. It means you're alive. It means you're in the game. Think about it. The most successful people in history didn't get to where they are by never failing. They failed repeatedly, time and time again. But each failure only made them stronger, smarter, more resilient. They learned from their mistakes. They adjusted their strategies, and they got back up. Look at any inventor, entrepreneur, or artist. Take Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Imagine if he had given up after the first, the second, or the 100th failure. We wouldn't have the light bulb. We wouldn't have electricity as we know it. His failures weren't setbacks. They were part of the blueprint for success. Each time he failed, he learned something new, and that led him closer to the breakthrough. Now, think about someone starting a business. They have a vision, a dream, a burning desire to bring their idea to life. But they don't get it perfect on the first try. In fact, they fail more times than they succeed. Maybe their first product didn't sell. Maybe their marketing strategy flopped. Maybe they ran out of money before they could even get started properly. But what do? Do they quit? Do they let failure crush them? No. They pick themselves up, they learn from their mistakes, and they try again. And eventually, after countless failures and setbacks, they hit the breakthrough they've been working for. They succeed, but that success was built on failure. Failure is part of the process. It's the price you pay for growth. When you take risks, when you push yourself beyond your limits, when you go after something that scares you, failure is inevitable. It's not a sign that you're not good enough. It's a sign that you're trying. It's a sign that you're out there, battling, learning, evolving. Think about how many times a baby falls down before it learns to walk. It doesn't give up after the first tumble. No, it gets up, tries again, and eventually it walks. And that's how life works. Every step forward is a result of getting up after you fall. Every success you achieve is built on a foundation of failure. If you're not failing, you're not growing. It's as simple as that. The fear of failure keeps so many people stuck. They're so afraid of not being perfect, of not getting it right the first time, that they don't even try. They don't put themselves out there. They don't take the risk. They don't chase their dreams. And in the end, they stay exactly where they are, stuck, stagnant, living a life of quiet regret. The real tragedy in life isn't failure. It's the fear of failure. It's allowing that fear to keep you from doing what you're truly capable of. Because failure is not the end. It's simply the beginning of something greater. It's the part of the process where you learn, grow, and adapt. And when you embrace it, you realize that failure isn't something to be feared. It's something to be celebrated. Let's take another example. A writer who struggles to finish their first book. Maybe they've written dozens of pages, only to scrap them. Maybe they've been rejected by publishers time and time again. But do they give up? No. They keep writing. They keep failing. And with each failure, they refine their craft. They learn what works and what doesn't. They grow as a writer, and eventually, they write a book that gets published. But without all those failures along the way, they wouldn't have developed the skills, the persistence, or the resilience needed to succeed. And that's the key, resilience. Failure isn't just about what happens to you. It's about how you respond. Do you let it break you, or do you let it build you? Do you let it teach you, or do you run from it? Success is not about never failing. It's about failing and getting back up. It's about looking at failure in the face and saying, "This is not the end. This is the beginning of something better." Because every failure is a lesson. Every mistake is an opportunity to grow, and every setback is a chance to come back stronger. Failure is part of the process, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner you realize that failure isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's the fire that forges you, the grind that shapes you, and the lesson that leads you to success. Without failure, there can be no progress. Without failure, there can be no growth. So stop running from it. Stop avoiding it. Stop letting it control you. And start using it to your advantage. Because every failure is a step closer to your success. The crowd will always be there. They'll always have their opinions, their judgments, their noise. But what you have to understand is that the noise is not your story. It's not your truth. It's their perspective, not yours. When you're chasing something bigger than yourself, when you're on a mission that doesn't fit into the mold of what everyone expects from you, the crowd will speak. They will tell you that you're crazy, that you're too ambitious, that you're dreaming too big. They will tell you to stay in your lane, to stick to what's comfortable, to not rock the boat. They'll make you feel like you're wrong for wanting more. And if you let their noise in, if you let their voices drown out your own, you will lose yourself. You'll lose your passion, your focus, your purpose. Silence the crowd, because their opinion doesn't define you. It doesn't shape your future. Their words are just that, words. Empty noise meant to distract you, to deter you from your path. But what's louder than their voices? Your own. What's more powerful than their doubts? Your belief in yourself. The moment you decide that you will not be swayed by the noise around you is the moment you take control of your own destiny. Think about the moments when you've had an idea, a vision, something that felt bigger than anything you'd ever imagined. Maybe it was starting a business. Maybe it was pursuing a career that didn't make sense to everyone else. Maybe it was moving to a new city to chase a dream that no one understood. The people around you, your family, your friends, maybe even strangers, they told you all the reasons why it wouldn't work. They told you about the risks, the failure, the chances you were taking. They told you to be realistic, to not get your hopes up. And for a moment, you might have listened. You might have thought that maybe they were right, that you should tone it down, play it safe, stay within the lines. But then something inside you clicked. You remembered why you started in the first place. You remembered the fire, the passion, the dream. You remembered that no one else had the vision you had, and no one else could see what you saw. And in that moment, you made a choice. You chose to silence the crowd. You chose to shut out the noise and follow the path that felt right to you, not to them. And that choice, that simple act of blocking out the crowd's opinions, was the moment everything began to shift. Because when you silence the crowd, you free yourself from the weight of their expectations. You stop living for their approval and start living for yourself. You stop measuring your worth based on their standards, based on what they think is possible or impossible. Their limits are not yours. Their fears are not yours. And when you stop listening to their limitations, you open yourself up to endless possibilities. Take a moment and think about the people who have made a real impact on the world. The innovators, the trailblazers, the ones who've changed the game in their fields. Think about them. Do you think they got to where they are by listening to the crowd? Do you think they succeeded by following the rules and staying within the lines of what everyone else was doing? No. They succeeded by tuning out the noise and focusing on their own vision, on their own journey. They didn't let the crowd dictate their actions. They didn't let the doubts of others steer them off course. They followed their passion, their dream, their belief in themselves, and they created something amazing. Take the example of someone starting a new business. Everyone tells them it's too risky, that the market is oversaturated, that they should stick to a more traditional path. The crowd tells them they're crazy for even thinking they could succeed. But what does the entrepreneur do? They silence the crowd. They focus on their idea, their plan, their vision. They work late nights, sacrifice, and take risks because they believe in their dream more than they believe in the doubt of others. And eventually, the business becomes successful. The crowd is left in awe, questioning how they did it. But the entrepreneur already knew the answer. They silenced the crowd and listened to their own inner voice. That was the key to success. It's easy to listen to the crowd when everything is safe, when everyone agrees with you, when everyone is cheering you on. But that's not where the real magic happens. The real magic happens when you stand alone, when you're surrounded by doubt and fear and everyone is telling you to stop, and yet you keep going. Because you believe in yourself more than you believe in their opinions. You believe in your dream more than you believe in their limits. And that's when things start to shift. You don't need the approval of the crowd to move forward. You don't need validation from anyone else to take the next step. The only person whose approval you need is your own. When you trust yourself, when you trust your vision, when you trust your instincts, you become unstoppable. The crowd may always be there, but their words will lose their power, because the only voice that matters is the one that comes from within. And when you can hear that voice, when you can follow that voice, nothing can stand in your way. Pain is something we all experience. It's unavoidable, and it's different for each person. It might come from losing a loved one, facing rejection, struggling with self-doubt, or dealing with disappointment after disappointment. Pain knocks on everyone's door, but what you do with that pain, how you respond to it, that's what separates those who move forward from those who remain stuck. Your pain doesn't have to define you, but it can transform you. If you allow it, if you embrace it, your pain can become your power. Too many people see pain as something to be avoided, something to run from, something that needs to be fixed as soon as possible. But what if we started to look at pain differently? What if we started to see pain as the fuel that propels us towards something greater? Think about it for a moment. Every time you've faced difficulty, every time you've felt like you were at your lowest, it's in those moments that you've had the opportunity to grow the most. Pain doesn't just hurt, it teaches. It reveals strength in you that you didn't even know existed. Look at someone who's been through a hard breakup. At first, they may feel lost, heartbroken and defeated. But over time, as they process that pain, they begin to find themselves again. They rediscover their passions. They become more independent, more resilient. What was once a source of deep sadness eventually becomes the foundation for their strength. They realize that they are capable of surviving, of moving on, of thriving even after their heart was broken. That pain becomes a reminder of their own inner strength, a strength that they never even knew they had until they were tested. Pain can also be a wake-up call when things aren't going the way we want. When life seems like a never-ending battle, we can feel overwhelmed. But sometimes, that feeling of being overwhelmed is exactly what you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone. It's what makes you ask the tough questions. Am I living the life I want? Am I making choices that will take me closer to my goals? Am I allowing myself to grow? Or am I staying in a situation that keeps me small? Pain forces us to confront our reality. It challenges us to stop pretending everything is okay and to start doing the hard work of transformation. Take, for example, someone who has faced financial hardship. Maybe they've lost a job, maybe their business failed, or maybe they've made some poor choices that have left them in a tough spot. At first, they feel hopeless. They feel like they've hit rock bottom. But instead of staying stuck, they start to reflect on their mistakes, their shortcomings, and what led them to this point. They use that pain to fuel their determination. They commit to learning more about finances, improving their skills, and finding a new way forward. And eventually, after months or even years of hard work, they come out on the other side, stronger, wiser, and more successful than before. What was once a painful setback becomes the reason for their ultimate success. Their pain became their power. Or consider someone who's been told over and over again that they're not good enough, that they don't have what it takes to succeed. This kind of rejection can be devastating. It can make you question everything about yourself. But for those who choose to rise above it, this pain becomes the driving force behind their success. Instead of listening to the voices that told them they weren't capable, they start to believe in their own abilities. They use the pain of rejection as motivation to prove the doubters wrong. They work harder, smarter, and they keep pushing forward, no matter how many times they're told they can't do it. Eventually, they achieve the very thing they were told was impossible. Their pain didn't break them. It made them stronger, more determined, and unstoppable. You might think that pain is a weakness, something that holds you back. But the truth is that pain can be one of your greatest sources of strength. When you face hardship and push through it, you learn what you're truly capable of. You realize that you are so much stronger than you think. Your pain teaches you resilience. It teaches you that no matter how hard life gets, you have the ability to keep going. When you get knocked down, your pain becomes the reason you get back up. When you face rejection, your pain becomes the fire that fuels your success. When life feels unfair, your pain becomes the reason you fight even harder. You can't avoid pain. It's a part of life. But instead of running from it, you can choose to embrace it, to learn from it, and to use it as a source of power. You can choose to turn your pain into purpose, to transform it into something that propels you forward instead of holding you back. When you start to see pain as a teacher, as a tool for growth, you shift your perspective completely. What once seemed like an obstacle becomes an opportunity. What once felt like a setback becomes a stepping stone. The truth is, we all have the potential to turn our pain into power. It's not about avoiding the tough times, but about how we respond to them. Pain doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of something incredible. Your pain has the potential to shape you, to refine you, to turn you into someone stronger, more capable, and more determined than ever before. The key is to choose to use your pain as your power, because when you do, there is nothing that can stop you. We all have dreams, aspirations, and goals that sometimes seem unreachable, impossible, or even out of our control. But here's the truth: nothing is impossible if you're willing to take risks. Embrace the struggles and push through the challenges. Life will throw everything at you, and there will be moments when you feel like you can't take another step. But remember this: no matter how hard it gets, you're never defeated until you choose to stop. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is simple. It's the willingness to keep going when the world says, give up. When you step into the unknown, when you take that risk, when you trust yourself even in the face of uncertainty, you are shaping your future. Failure isn't the end. It's simply a lesson that teaches you to rise again, stronger than before. There's a famous quote by Thomas Edison, who once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Think about that for a moment. What if every setback, every rejection, every roadblock was just one more step towards success? What if each failure was merely a lesson, a necessary part of your growth? The only way you truly fail is if you quit. And if you refuse to quit, your success is inevitable. Take a moment and think of the greats, people who have changed the world. They weren't born into success. They didn't have it easy. They faced obstacles that would make most of us give up. but they understood something profound. Pain is temporary, but regret lasts forever. They knew that the only way to achieve greatness was by stepping outside their comfort zone, by taking risks, by facing their fears head-on. Look at Michael Jordan, who was cut from his high school basketball team. He didn't let that setback define him. Instead, he let it fuel him. As he famously said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times, I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." His success didn't come from avoiding failure. It came from embracing it. Life doesn't care about your comfort zone. It doesn't care about how many times you fall. What life cares about is how many times you get back up. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. Will you be the one who gives up when the going gets tough? Or will you be the one who keeps going when everyone else quits? When you face failure, when you experience pain, remember this: it's not the end. It's just a test to see how badly you want it. Will you fold under the pressure, or will you rise to the challenge and prove to yourself that you are stronger than any obstacle in your path? The road to success isn't easy, but it is worth every step. Greatness is not for the faint of heart. Greatness is earned, not given. And every time you step out of your comfort zone, every time you take a risk, every time you face your fears and push through the pain, you're getting closer to your dream. Remember, success is not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up, how many times you refuse to let your failures define you. So, take that risk. Create that story. Step into the unknown with courage and conviction. Trust in your ability to overcome, to learn, and to grow. Understand that no matter how many times you stumble, your story isn't over until you choose to give up. Keep moving forward. Keep believing in yourself. And when you finally reach the top, you'll look back and realize that every struggle, every setback, every painful moment was just a stepping stone on your path to greatness. As Les Brown once said, "Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss it, you will land among the stars. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The time is now. The risk is worth it. Create your story and let it be one of perseverance, courage, and triumph. Because in the end, the only limits that exist are the ones you place on yourself. The world is waiting for you to step up, take that risk, and make your mark. So go ahead, take that step. Your story starts now.